very warm welcome to this third Future of Work talk. We actually thought along whether we should do this talk or not, because it's just very short before the summer break, or in some regions it's actually already in the summer break. But then we have decided to still do it because it's a topic that is keeping awake, that is engaging companies around the world currently. So this Future of Work talk is about how to make hybrid work, and many companies will bring back their employees back to the office just after the summer break. That's why we decided to do this Future of Work talk number 3 just before the summer break. And another reason is because we were able to win over fantastic world-class speakers for this talk. So we have, I'm very excited and very glad to have Falko Eschenlohr here from BMW, who is Gesamtprojektleiter Projekthaus Nord, and he has some very interesting insights on hybrid work considerations at BMW. And then we have Anjuli, who is head of people and culture at flaconi. I think flaconi is an excellent example of how to implement hybrid work. And I think their model has even been adapted by a couple of companies. It had somehow become even famous, you could say. At least I've heard it a couple of times when I talk actually to other companies. So I'm very excited. Maybe shortly about myself. I'm Ivan, co-founder and CEO of deskbird. Today also as a host, and also giving a very short talk on our hybrid work bird playbook. Yes, so let's get started. Before we start, a couple of sentences about the format. Yeah, many of you already know it. What is the goal of the Future of Work talk series? The goal is very simple. We want to inspire you around the future of work. We want to give you some thoughts that you probably would not have had before, that you can bring into your organizations and try out, and just have somehow an inspiring sessions with interesting speakers and interesting examples. The format is that it's very crisp talks from our speakers, and then in the end we do a Q&A based on the questions that we receive. And the goal is to be below the 45 minutes. So we really want to keep it crisp and short, but still inspiring. So I said already that today's topic is how to make hybrid work. I would start with a very short summary of the deskbird playbook. Just talk about it in a few seconds. It's about how to make hybrid work, kind of a playbook for people interested in hybrid work or implementing hybrid work in their organizations. And then we have two very interesting examples. Obviously, we have an example from BMW with Falko, and then we go to flaconi with Anjuli. And in the end, as always, we do a short Q&A based on your questions. Please just post the questions in the chat. David will collect them, and then in the end, we'll do a moderation. All right, let's get started then with the first part, the bird playbook. So before we start with the content, what is the bird playbook about? It's something that we from deskbird developed as we talked to more than 100 of companies that are actually currently implementing hybrid work, and we just try to kind of pick the best examples from all those companies, from startups to large companies, and try to build up a playbook that can help people in companies that actually have the task of implementing hybrid work in the companies. That kind of helps them in doing it. That's why it's a very hands-on playbook. It should be comprehensive, so we try to tackle the topic really in a comprehensive way, and it has a lot of examples from companies that we know of. And what follows is just that we just go through it very briefly. I'm not going to talk too long about it. First of all, why is it called the bird playbook? So we try to make it somewhat memorable, and that's why we said B is like, you should start when you are going to go hybrid as a company. You should always start with a hybrid work vision and purpose. That's what the B stands for. Then the next step is important to kind of ignite your leadership and culture and prepare it for this new way of working, this new hybrid way of working. Then you go ahead, and you obviously it's important also to realize the vision that you outlined with devices and workspaces, and here we'll have like very interesting examples today. And in the end, kind of the backbone is also to have the right infrastructure in place, having the right data platforms, cloud solutions, and so on. this is basically the summary, and I'll just go very shortly. I go through the main components. Yes, so to start with the B, you should always start, we believe, even though it sounds a bit like soft and it sounds like something that you cannot grasp, but we think it's very important to build a hybrid work vision. So you need to know what is the purpose that your company is going hybrid, and you should also kind of align your leadership behind it. The worst thing that can happen if you just say, okay, you heard hybrid as a buzzword, and now you start like looking for tools or just like trying to do something without a real vision and purpose behind it. And it's also important that you very early on, you already involve your employees in this process. So what do your employees actually want? Like, do they actually want home office, or do they want to come to the office 5 days a week? That's all possible. And here an example is SAP. So they actually asked very early in the process, they asked all their employees whether they would like to continue to work from home, and 94% said that at least occasionally they would like to do so. So that's why very shortly after they introduced a very flexible way of working at SAP. This is kind of the starting point. Then when you have a vision, it's important obviously to ignite your culture and leadership. So especially leadership, we hear a lot that it's a new way of leading people in this hybrid work, and they need training, and you also need a different way of measuring performance. So it's not anymore that, okay, you value people that are in the office from 8 to 6 in the evening, because you can measure like kind of how long they have been sitting at their desks. But now it's more shifting towards objective-based performance. Like what we hear a lot is OKRs that are being used. I mean, they have started at some tech companies, but in the meantime, I think we see many companies actually using OKRs, and it goes in line with hybrid work. And also, and this is a very interesting example, is using agile methods also, especially in a hybrid work setting. And agile methods can not only be used in IT, but they can also be used in other areas. And I think quite traditional companies, Campbell's, you probably all know the soups of Campbell's. This was kind of their main product. And what they did is that they launched a new product. I think it was a baked tortilla snack. And they tried to do it in an agile way, and they found out somehow that they were able to bring down the time from ideation to market from 2 years to 9 months. And now they are actually, I think with any product that they're launching, they're doing it with agile methods. And now it's getting a bit more tangible, if you want. Now it's the part where you kind of realize your vision with devices and workspaces. I mean, you know that you cannot have stationary computers and so on if you want to go hybrid. So you need a mobile-first device policy, and also you need to think about your workspace. That's very important. That you create a workspace that creates an environment that is in line with your hybrid work vision. And I think an interesting example, probably at the forefront of tech, obviously, is Google. And what they did is they introduced campfire meeting rooms. So meaning that it doesn't matter if you're in home office or you're on site, you can just participate in a meeting, and it feels like you're very included, and creates an inclusive meeting experience. That's about the third component. And then in the end, it's also obviously important to involve your IT. So when you go hybrid, you also need to think about your backbone. So 2 things that are very important here is that you need to think of cybersecurity. That's something that has also been talked a lot about. And you also have to obviously have modern data platforms. So you need to make data, you need to make systems accessible, like from anywhere, not only dependent on whether you're on site or not. This is just a very short summary on the Bird playbook. As we said, we elaborated the playbook based on hundreds of interviews we had with companies recently. If you want to get early access, you can just email us, and we'll send you a copy. And now I think it's the perfect timing to hand over to Falko, and very excited to hear some insights on how hybrid is thought about at BMW.
Ivan, thank you very much. And you're really in time, so I will start and keep my time. So probably you see the slides now. So what I want to go talk is about some recent projects we realized in Munich in our R&D center, and this is a very important thing of how hybrid work and the working environment is a base for our work which we are doing in the R&D center. So just a few numbers. This is in Munich, it's called FITZ, like Forschung und Innovationszentrum. And at the FITZ, all brands are developed there. So it's from BMW, Mini, Rolls-Royce, and BMW motorbikes. And all development stages are developed there. So there are in whole 26,000 people working there. And it's a different kind of work, from test beds, early stage, like clay modeling, till a preliminary series before it's going to the plants worldwide. So, and in this area, our recent project was the Projekthaus North, and this is, I want to talk. It was completed last year, this is the main topics I can share with you. So there are 4 issues I want to talk. Is that we have, like, let's say, this cross-departmental work. You know, not only each department works of its own, but more this interdisciplinary work. And like the issue, what you said before, like cooperation. The second thing is, which is very important, is serendipity and innovation. So people come together for innovation. And the third issue is like the BMW group working environment. So how does it looks like? And the fourth thing is digitalization. So for these 4 topics, just a few insights. Everything starts with the analysis of how people work together. So even if it's remote work, you must bring the right people together who are do the process there. And so if they come to the site, it's very important that they have short distances and spatial proximity. So this is the base that our analysis of how people work together. So we call it the spatialization of process. And even the results of how people work together is the result is the base for the new buildings. So what we had is that workshop and office areas, because we have a lot of hardware there, have to be very intense and very smooth together. Second is, in this building, about 4,000 employees working in this new building. So the interaction and the innovative cross-functional project work, the interlocking between brain and hardware is very important. But most important is the networking of in between the people. And so our space should support this working together. If they are here, they have this, how to say, you know, the visibility. If people work at home, they do more remote work, but if they come, they should have the visibility that people are there, that people are in place, that they can have their hardware, their cars. And if you look at this building, we have another issue that they are not like separated areas, but it's an open area. And we got another issue, that's the connection in between the different floors. So we call it the flow of floors. And if you imagine in this area working about 1,600 people in one open space together. So this is like the real coming together of people for being seen and see other people. On this hand, that they are not only going to work at home. And the second issue is about serendipity and innovation. And this issue should be the characteristic that different areas had different functional things. So if you have a normal floor area, we got areas for communication, for concentrated work, for interaction in between the people, but also, as you see in the first level in the atrium, in this area, they're like project areas. So they come and can collaborate in this issue. They're also very robust, and you can bring like a car inside to have also like hardware contact there. And the answer in this talk we wanna think of is, how is this area going to be changed? Because we don't know what the future will bring and how the demands of the work of the future will change. And so we got from the base, we got a process where we have the analysis of how people work together. And we have this with the Workers' Council, with our leadership and with our employees. And so we got like 3 steps. We want to know, how do you work together? What kind of remote work you have? What kind of let's say, agile working you have? And then we design the office areas. So the office areas look very different. So this is an example of people working very much with IT, with simulations, with computers, and they got very work at the desk. And another department, like this, for example, they decided we are in an early stage, we do this preliminary design. And so our duty, our main duty is to talk to other people, to have meetings, to have agile working processes. And so they designed their areas like a very agile working area. And just only these examples, how different working areas look like, and how this activity-based working is the base for having the optimal working environment. And another issue is that if people come to work, they have to have a very attractive working environment. So we got, for example, a new company canteen, which is the guest area is open 24 hours. So in this area, people can meet, they can have leadership conferences, they can have team meetings, whatever. And it's a very multifunctional area. And the last issue I want to talk is about how the building must look like to have a perfect environment for people working remote there. So first we have the smart building technology that in this building, the employees can illuminate by your smartphone all light in the building, and also the plants and the sun protection are regulated by smartphone. The second issue is that we invented different apps with some companies. So we got like an indoor navigation, because as I said before, 26,000 people working there. So if you look for a meeting room, like it's called D26, whatever, and you can just, your smartphone will bring you there. And we got like connected building, the regulation of light and sunshade. And the third thing is like all the issues about reservation of meeting rooms and things like this. So with these 3 support apps for our employees, we can manage that they have the perfect working environments if they come here to have a good surrounding to do their work in place. So this is from my side, and I thank you.
Very cool. Thanks a lot, Falko. Very interesting. Also seeing just the scale that you have to think about 26,000 people. It's just like impressive. Really, thanks a lot for this talk. Then I would say let's go to the next speaker, Anjuli. Already excited. I know I announced the model that has become famous, but let's see.
No pressure here. Yeah, I was just thinking about how crazy it is. When I think about flaconi, I'm always thinking in numbers like 500 people and how to deal with them. And then when you say something like 20,000, it's like, okay, that's not happening. So that is very exciting. Bildschirm. So can you guys see the presentation mode?
Yeah, perfect.
Yes, perfect. Thank you. So we approached it not as scientifically as Ivan told us how to do it. But what we did before Corona already, we started thinking about, is that really the way we want to work? Do we really need people sitting here all day? Does everybody need their own desk? Especially being located in Berlin in a tech company, we always had the issue that we did not have enough place for a lot of people. So clearly one of the things we started thinking about was a hybrid working concept. And then Corona came and it changed the game quite drastically. So what did we do after a while? After 7 or 8 months in Corona, we basically came back to the starting point we have been and said, how do we want to work after Corona? How do we want to work in the future? We already, maybe for everybody, when Corona started, we sent everybody directly home. So we closed down the office within a day and nobody who was working in headquarters worked from the business anymore, and we managed quite good. So after a year, what we basically learned was in no way we can tell people to come back to the office 5 days. That is just, we don't have any valid reason for this. We also said, if we're not going to come back for 5 days a week, we need to transform the office. So this is why I was so interested in the BMW story, because we said, if this is not a place to pure work and sit on your desk, we obviously can use a lot of space for a lot of cool stuff. And we said as well, Corona is not going to be not part of our lives for the future. So let's think about it, how we keep that into account. So what we said is, since we know we are not going to have people in the office 5 days a week, why are we not doing a completely remote setting? And then we started asking the people, how do you feel with working from home? What are you missing? What is good working well? So we did as well what you guys did, and we asked the people. And it turned out all the pure working stuff is working quite good. So the whole, doing your day-to-day business, but the whole cross-functional, the whole cultural part, the onboarding, that was something we felt was not giving enough space, and it's something that's very important to us for flaconi. And this is why we said, why not take the best out of both worlds and let's do a very hybrid concept. And we came up with a way of working where we said you have to be twice, 2 days every week in the office. One of them is a team day, because we felt this is something where we really benefit from being physically together. And we said, this is a day where you basically do your team meeting, you do a lunch together, you do onboarding, OKRs, all that. And we said, we need as well a cross-functional day, because we felt that a lot of things you're missing when working purely remote is the whole floor shattering. So you don't know who's working on what. Can you help? Is there anything? And then we said as well, you can be flexible for 3 working days. As long as you're in Germany, as long as you have a working environment where you actually can have meetings and all that. We also made some proposals what to do on those days. And then we basically said, okay, we're done, amazing concept. And then at one point, I was in the office and I saw that my table is very clean and there's just a keyboard and a mouse and that's it. And then I went to the other table and I saw like pictures of your kids and some plants and I don't know, some gimmicks. And we realized maybe not everybody feels the same about not having a fixed desk, because that's the logical consequence. If I'm just in the office for 2 days, I'm not having a fixed desk because I just need it twice. And then we said, okay, why would we make those people not have their desks? So what we came up with is our concept of settler and travelers, where we said a traveler is someone like me who has a very flexible desk. You can come twice a week. You don't have to have any stuff in the office. You just come there to work. You have your meetings and all good. But maybe you're someone who needs to feel comfy at work, like a settler in his house or her house. And we said, for those people, we will give you your fixed desk. You can have your pictures and your plans with you, but then you're in the office for 4 days, because then you get the best place in the office. You get the one at the window, you get the one close to the coffee machine, but the deal is you're here 4 days. And yeah, so basically this is how we try to do hybrid. We say, we want you to be here twice, but for the rest, we'll try to accommodate you as much as we can. And this means obviously having a fixed desk, where for the other people, we're doing a lot. And here I agree with Falko. We have a lot of digital things where you say, this is your desk, you book it, you give it away. And especially in times of Corona, that is super helpful to have that digital system behind you to actually know who's been where in case of an outbreak. And so, yeah, this is basically how we do settler and traveler at Flaconi, our famous concept. Yeah, and then maybe what I don't know if it's interesting for you guys, but I added like the outline of our offices, because what we said as well is, although you don't have a fixed desk, we feel you should have a home in the company. So what we said is every team will have a team huddle where, usually people from People and Culture hang around on the 5th floor in the right corner. It doesn't mean you have to sit there, but especially for people coming back from, I don't know, maternity leave, parenting time, or new people, it's just so much easier when they actually know where they can sit as a starting point where their team is. And this is why we had managed or invented that concept. I'm done.
Very cool. Great stuff. Thanks a lot, Anjuli. And I think, I hope I didn't put too much pressure, but actually when we are in sales meetings, sometimes we quite often hear that when we ask companies like, how are you doing hybrid? They're actually telling us, yes, we just do the settler and traveler model of Flaconi. So it has created some buzz actually. So I think it's quite a cool concept. Great. Then I think let's go to the Q&A part. Now it's getting interesting. We have a first question from Monica. Probably let's do a round among the speakers. So do you see a trend for the following years in terms of remote work and hybrid work? Like, what do you think, like how persistent will this hybrid and the increase of home office, how persistent will this be? Maybe we start with Falko.
As Anjuli said, I'm really convinced that there will be no normal like it was before. So if people now got the opportunity working at home, they will say it worked well. So why should I go back 5 days a week back to the office? And but I think it depends really. As Anjuli also said, there are different types of people doing different types of personal intentions, and also like different types of work. If you have like hardware, or if you do more virtual things. So this is also what we at BMW think, that it depends really on how is the working process, is it possible to do, and so it depends on the work. And also depends on, it's a big issue for leadership, that it's a new form of working together. So, but it will be for the future sure a way you have to manage.
Sure, thanks. Anjuli?
I actually think it depends a lot on the leadership, because remember, or a few years ago, so before Corona, it was always, if you're staying late, you're the one who get the connection with the boss and get the good stuff. So I could imagine that staying late or going to the office becomes the new staying late, because this is still the place where you get all the chatter and the new projects. So I think this is actually something we need to have a look at, that we are not starting to have a two classes company. But as I said, I'm pretty sure nobody will go back 5 days a week. Yeah. So I assume it's going to be a Tuesday to Thursday or something.
Interesting. I would just have a follow-up question to that, actually. Maybe, yeah, our take is, from deskbird is, yes, we also believe that this is something that will stay. Why do we believe it? We heard from quite a couple of companies that, yeah, before COVID or probably even after COVID, you could consider them rather conservative, like sometimes even like SMEs that are kind of still family owned, just like before COVID, they didn't even know home office, they just didn't have it. And some of those companies, they really reduced the office, they just terminated their office leases by even 40 to 50%. And so this is something that is not kind of something that is just like a hype. So that's why we believe that it's something that will persist. Nevertheless, we'll have those challenges that Falko and Anjuli obviously also outlined. And this would be also an interesting question, Anjuli, maybe. How do you, especially as a head of culture, how do you have like new things in place that you start with this new model? Like, how do you make sure that you still keep a culture and despite having this new model?
Yeah, I mean, currently we're still all in the home office, right? Main part. But what we started a lot, I think the key to keep the culture and keep everybody on track is actually good digital support. You know, if you have proper setups so that meetings can be hybrid. And what we've learned is, for the culture, you have to put so much more effort in. You know, back in the office, we just had a poster with our values or the mission somewhere visible. And now you just have to keep on doing a lot more communication to keep culture alive. And I mean, it's harder to reach people, right? I mean, even with remote settings, they can turn off the camera and, you know, not listen.
But do you have specific like ways how you kind of how you strengthen the communication, or is it still something that you're going to figure out along the way?
So far, it's still working quite good. But I mean, I talked to other companies, and I think we're just very lucky because we're a tech company anyways. So everybody was used to email and internal communication programs and all that. But yeah, actually, it's one of the challenges for this year, I would say.
Okay, cool. We have another question towards Falko. Will the existing buildings at BMW be rebuilt kind of to a similar style as the Projekthaus North? Or would you go through the process of really looking at work styles for employees and basically rebuilding every building from scratch?
I think the Projekthaus North is an exceptional building. So it's impossible to rebuild all the other buildings by BMW. And if you imagine, we got worldwide 120,000 employees. So it's a further going process to step by step roll out the BMW working environment. So it's one hand is like the building. We've got a very a building with a lot of interaction for the developing process, but for other departments, we got just normal buildings. But also to roll out this activity-based working concept is still a quite huge challenge, because if you imagine, we are like not a startup. Our company got let's say the mid-age or the middle age of the people is in between, I don't know, between 20 and 65. So for all these people, even the older people, you have to bring them to the stage that they accept this is activity-based working. I'm not going to the office and have my desk. I go there to have the best place for the duty I have to do. And so it's step by step to roll out this other type of working experience. And it will be accelerated, I think, because the challenges with COVID and remote work will bring other components in this working environment.
May I ask, Falko, is there kind of, do you have a figure at BMW where you say, okay, this is what we believe in future will be the ratio of home, like of remote work versus on-site work? Like, if it is something that you can share, you have.
I think this is very depending on how the work process is. So there's no general figure to say, and you can imagine if, especially for the developing process, you need people to do the test beds, to check the hardware. So for a car, you got thousands of components where we have the responsibility and we need to check them and have a long-term test. So there are really very different kind of work activities with different requirements of being at place, or so it depends really on the process. So there's no general figure, but I think it's going to it will be strengthened the network, and we for sure will leveraging efficiencies if we strengthen remote work.
Good, thanks. Questions to Anjuli. We have another one. How many people remain settlers after you announced?
Oh, interesting questions.
I know we haven't done the real poll now so far. Surprisingly, I think it's going to be 60-40 for traveler. So I first, when we invented the concept, I was 100% sure it's going to be 99% traveler and 1% settler, the one table I saw. But apparently a lot of people, they actually love having their fixed desk. But what we said is you can choose once a year. So every year you could reevaluate, and we will give for the traveler, you will get an equipment for your home place. So a chair and a desk. But yeah, I think it's going to be 60-40, but let's see how long COVID goes. Maybe that changes.
How do you actually control, like, I mean, people could be tempted of saying, okay, I'm a settler, but they still come to the office maybe twice a week. Like, do you have a system in place to check?
I mean, what we strongly believe in trust in people. So first of all, I do believe that most of the people will not lie to us. I think there is something that will regulate itself. You know, if you have the best desk and it's all, you have the desk on the window with the best view to the Spree, but you're never there, I think you wouldn't do that. I think most of the people are fair. And you have to check in with the app, so we actually know if someone is there or not. I don't know. I think one challenge we will have is, what if people don't come to the office at all? You know, if like people say, I haven't been there. But yeah, let's see. Let's cross that bridge when we come to it.
But just one question for the traveler: you are going to pay like a desk and a chair at home?
No, we don't pay the desk. We say you can get a chair and a screen, because the assumption is you would have it in the office as well. And then we actually have a messenger or whatever, picking it up once a month. So if you're leaving, you can tell us and we'll pick it up. And if you start, we'll deliver it to you.
Okay. Interesting.
I think that's it from the questions. We are just in time, just keeping the promise of being below the 45 minutes. That's Swiss punctuality, so all good. Once again, thanks a lot, Falko and Anjuli. Great talks. Yeah, a lot of great ideas. I think we can even take with us, and hopefully all of the of the participants. And yeah, so that's it. Looking forward to seeing you all to the next Future Work Talk, the 4th one, and yeah, be sure that we'll soon announce the topic and the date.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Nice evening.